is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering The Magicians, Season 4, Episode 11, The 411. In this episode, Zelda and Kady get locked in the poison room, do not care for that at all, and Quentin goes back in time, but like in the body that he was in. So you can't like run into yourself in this version. It's interesting. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Nicole for commissioning this episode. Sorry about the noise. I'm rolling my chair around trying to get a little bit more comfortable. Let me adjust my mic here. Hi to Jessie, who is in the chat. Hello. Lovely to see you here. And Nicole. Hi, Nicole. She's here. This episode had a lot going on. I mean, they all have a lot going on. I don't even know why I say that, because like every fucking episode of the show is always packed to the gills. But this one was, I think it felt like more going on than the last one, because the last one, to remind you all, was all that hard glossy armor, and it's a very Margot focused episode. There's other people in it. It's not like she gets the whole episode all to herself, but it felt a lot more straightforward, because as viewers, we are so focused on what's going on with her, and it's like, you know, her section is the part that has like the music in it and everything. It just kind of overwhelms everything else that's happening. And when we start this episode, we have her telling them the stories. She says, "Hot and dumb just wasn't getting it. So that's when I told the foreskin, welcome to the new desert order. It's going to suck for you." Guys, Margot is just so delightful, but hearing her tell this story is so awkward. I love her. I don't want to hate this as much as I do, but I hate it. It's just so very awkward. And she says for Quentin to call the axes by their names, Sorrow and Sorrow. And everybody keeps like coming in just as she's finishing telling the story to somebody else. And the whole like first 5 minutes of this is her repeating herself over and over again. I have mentioned this before, but I am going to say it again. This apartment that they are in is just really something. I don't know if I've been too distracted to notice certain details before, but I noticed this episode, these like black walls that have like a bit of texture to them and molding, that have like these huge roses overlaying corners. It's just gorgeous. It's the kind of thing that like I look at and I realize that I am not daring enough with my choices to come up with something that's that high impact. I can be very traditional and boring in my choices, even though to a lot of people, I think I seem daring. I'm really not. And I just was arrested more than once throughout this episode as I got a glimpse of, like, for example, the spiral stairs. I don't think I ever noticed the backing of each stair being like that sort of Art Deco grill work. There's just so much detail in this set, and it must have been so much fun to design. I can imagine, unless this is a real place, which I doubt, I assume it's a set. If you're building a place like this, it must be fun to kind of play as if you are creating like your dream apartment, but to the like next level, because this is such a huge space. I can't imagine just one person living in it. This place looks like the apartments that you see in like a Peloton commercial, where they just like have all of this room to roll a fucking like bike through the house to set it up somewhere. There's not a single place that you could put some shit like that in my house. There is no room, my friends. Not gonna happen. So what this comes down to is that Margot thinks that she has the answer with these axes and the bottles, and that if they, you know, are able to use them on Elliot the way that they were used on the people in the clan that she was part of for a minute, that's it. They will take care of the problem. But Quentin is like, dude, this is different. This is like a very high level power we're dealing with here. I don't think the little bottles that you've got, like, I'm sure they work for whatever it is you were doing, but I don't necessarily think that's going to hold what the fuck we're dealing with. And she says, well, this is what we've got, so we have to make it work. And Alice says we could cast an incorporate bond on the bottles. And Margot says, thank you. I don't know what that is, but I hate you less now. I love the look that Alice gets on her face of just being so like, she doesn't even know. It's not even just offended. It's also startled. But basically what this is a spell that keeps something in a place that you designate. And the problem about this spell is that there is only one person who was ever able to make it work, and that is Mayakovsky. And he is now kind of like, it seems like he fucked something up and has dementia now. And so there is no way for the present Mayakovsky to remember how to do this spell. So I'm going to go ahead and just tackle this whole thing because it's... All right, I'm going to admit something here, guys. I'm disappointed. We had this beautiful, promising storyline with Alice and Sheila was her name, I think. And Alice learning that magic can be used to do good, figuring out how to atone for the things she's done, and discovering selfless acts. And we are given exactly one episode of that before Sheila just decides to join the library. And we may get more of that eventually. But as of right now, it looks like that's just over, and I am bummed. I don't care about the Alice and Quentin drama much anymore. I was like very here for her trying to make it up to Quentin and him not being interested. But this episode is a lot about each of them being like not over the other, not sure what is next, feeling just like a lot of complicated emotions. And while that is all well and good and probably very close to the reality of how people would be doing, I just can't find it in myself to fucking care. I was so interested in what they had been doing with Alice because it was about Alice. I didn't like her as a character. I was bored of her. But then they made her start to do some like selfless, interesting things and learn some new ways to use magic and like fight against the library in a subtle way that couldn't necessarily be traced back to her. Now we've got this return to Alice struggling with interpersonal problems. And I'm just like, I don't even like the two of them together. It's like they're only supposed to kind of like go together because they're each nerdy. And other than that, I don't feel any chemistry between the two of them. I don't know if I'm alone in that. Like, I'm interested to hear what you guys think. But I don't feel it. And Alice has just been like the exact same person, even despite everything that has happened to her. We have seen her go through so much, but I don't feel like I see the changes in who she is as a person. You know, I see the changes in Margot. I see her being a little bit more vulnerable. I see her, you know, learning how to play with others, even though she's not necessarily playing nice. Julia has gone through quite a bunch of changes, and it really feels like it has stuck. Penny doesn't count because he's Penny 23, so it's just a whole other story. And like Kady, I mean, she has turned a complete corner and is doing a whole other thing now. It feels like everybody has had so much growth that really is reflected in the way they behave. And Alice doesn't have that. She has growth that we are told about. We are not shown it. And I don't know. So when I realized how much of the mission between her and Quentin was going to be about being plunged back into this, like, this time of his life when they were in a happy relationship and fucking all the time, I just couldn't really care. You know, I don't know. And the one saving grace of that storyline was Mayakovsky, because he's very funny. So deciding that they are going to have him be like the comic relief in that worked for me. And I did enjoy the fact that Quentin is his like area of study, his concentration is repairing of small objects. And at the end, when he repairs a mug that was broken, Alice asked him, "How do you feel?" And she says, "How did you feel?" And he says, "I feel like I'm reminding it of what it used to be and waking it up." And there's supposed to be subtext there about him doing that with her. I guess, whatever. The thing I liked about it was that it sort of reminded me of, in the Young Wizards books, how inanimate objects have like personalities and feelings and intentions. And wizards can speak with those objects and basically like get a door to unlock by being like, "Hey, door handle, you really love turning, don't you? I know that you love turning. That's like the best part of your day is when somebody turns you. If you want to turn right now, that'd be super helpful to us if you want to go ahead and do that." And then it turns and they go through. It's a very odd way to play magic, but I really enjoy it because it's so odd. And this really was reminiscent of that to me. But yeah, he winds up getting told that that is the concentration that he is best at, which he's a little bit disappointed by. I am going to guess that it is going to come in extremely fucking useful at some point. And then he runs into past Alice, who has already figured out that he is from the future. And I think she was just listening in at the door when Mayakovsky figured it out, really. And she wants to know what's going on between the two of them, why he looked at her the way that he did, and basically tells him, "You are the best thing that ever happened to me, and no matter what else happens, I want you to remember that I said that." And then she like wipes her memory so that she won't remember they talked about the future. So that's pretty much that with them. I feel like I covered all of that. So let's see. I'm trying to like jump to the next plot. Oh my God. I forgot that Zelda goes and talks to the dean, because he is just really getting thrown some like juicy morsels in the past few episodes. I feel like he must be having fun with this role. But Zelda needs help getting into the poison room. And she is asking Kady, and it's an interesting thing because Kady says, "You want to steal Everett's book from the poison room?" And Zelda says, "It's the only way we can get ahead of him, but I need your help. It takes 2 librarians to get in. I can get us in and out unharmed, but protocol dictates that they enter in pairs for safety." I thought it was a little odd that apparently there's no process of identification. So Zelda is able to just bring anyone with her into the poison room. And apparently the poison room cannot detect whether that person is even a librarian. It's just that they are also a person, and that's evidently enough. Which, I mean, there really should be at least a basic badge system. They have to rely on essentially just that people know that they will die if they go into the poison room. I mean, it's not, they have one key and that's pretty much it. We have like them drinking the bugs, but the bugs aren't security. The bugs are to protect them as they go in, but it's not to keep the room secure. And I found that really, really weird. When she says, it requires us to enter in pairs, what I thought we were going to get was her attempting to get Kady to sign a contract with the library as well, which, would have been interesting if she got some sort of like version of the contract where it's not quite as stringent, but it was enough to get her to be officially a librarian and get through. But yeah, she had asked Dean Fogg, and he says that the library has been up his ass. He is not allowed to leave break bills. And Kady calls him a fucking coward, to which the dean is basically like, yeah, I'm also going to be the one that's still alive. But, whatever. I guess you're real brave and you're also dead. Congratulations. I mean, there's some truth to that. I love Kady's looking at him. Zelda says, please. And Kady, we know, is definitely going to do that shit. I'm really digging Kady this season. I'm here for it. Meanwhile, there's an interesting thing that happens with the binder. So they open it up, and there's an odd language inside that nobody recognizes. Apparently, Juliet has done some... Did I say Juliet? It's Julia. Apparently, Julia has done some research and has not found anything like this written anywhere. So she thinks it's a dead language, but even if it were, you'd think you'd get some reference, and she's not getting any. Margot's leafing through it, and she cuts herself with the paper cut, and the book slams shut on her hand when she does that. When they open it after it bit her, as she puts it, the pages are all blank. And they have no idea what happened. But then there's this one page that has a tiny bit of writing on it, and it looks like Margot's blood is what got it to show up. So Margot's like, oh, it needs blood, huh? Guys, I fucking love her so much. This bitch takes this book to the bathroom. I assume pulls out her fucking moon cup or something and dips a paintbrush in it and just fucking swishes her period blood all over the book. It is hilarious. Oh, wait, no, I forgot. You can see her tampon string sticking out. Oh my God. Oh my God, she is so funny. Guys, why is she so good? I love her. And Penny is just very uncomfortable with it. So this causes some other writing to show up that is in Latin. And Julia, why am I saying her name wrong all of a sudden this episode? Julia says that she can't cast, but if Penny can read it, Penny's all weird about it, touching it because it's period blood. It's so funny. If it were regular blood, I bet he'd just be like, well, but if it's period blood, God forbid. And he reads the book, the Latin out loud, and all of a sudden, this hand comes up through the pages of the book. It's a pretty good effect, honestly. And this old dude pulls himself out of the book. It is honestly hilarious. Eventually, he gets almost all the way out, but like his sandal is still stuck inside. I cannot tell you guys, I found this so amusing. I really liked this. And the dude who's playing the binder is the one who plays the scientist in Orphan Black, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember his name, but the guy in Orphan Black is a real scumbag. So I was like, as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh, I don't like this guy. And then I was like, oh, that's because I didn't like the last character he played. That'll happen sometimes. I'll be like, yeah, I hate you. And then I have to be like, why did I have that reaction? Jesse says, Dr. Leakey, thank you. That's the one. Dr. Leakey. Oh, he's a real shitty dude. So yeah, they're all staring at him and he's like, obviously very, what's the word I want here? He feels a little bit, unstable, I guess is the word I want. He's a mess. He speaks in third person omniscient. Like, I mean, maybe it's not even omniscient, but it's narration as if we are reading a book of the scene. And I love this. As the binder stood before them and as they stared, eyes full of wonder, the binder thought to himself, and then he like stops and stares around and says, took you long enough. And we don't find out until later that he, like, I'm going to get to it. All right. I'm trying to get ahead of myself here. Why don't we talk about Zelda's storyline and what happens with Kady altogether? Because I feel like that's fine. Zelda is going to try and get the key to get into the poison room. But Everett winds up ducking out of this meeting that she had thought he was in early. So she can't go to his office to get the key the way she intended. So she tells him that she had wanted to speak to him. She goes with him to his office and has tea. I love Kady's reaction as she like walks away because Kady is just so tense, doesn't even really want to do this that much, doesn't feel confident in their plan. The whole thing is just very like, it's all the things that Kady doesn't like about these sorts of missions rolled up into one. Everett, when he talks to Zelda, says that he was worried about her, that she had seemed distant lately, and that he thought something was wrong. And he tells her that he's always here for her. And they get interrupted at this point by a librarian showing up and saying that there's been an incident with the dean. So let me back up and talk about what happened with the dean, because it's actually quite funny. The dean has been assigned to teach a class. And, I mean, he shows up drunk, as he is wont to do. Guys, I don't know if any of you, like, he got a call on his banana. Honestly, I loved this joke. I loved it. Kady's calling him from a library phone and says, I didn't think I'd get through. The phones here work off GPS coordinates, not numbers. And he says, well, you were close, into his banana. And she says, I don't have a lot of time. We need your help. So she decides to ask him to do something that will cause the library to be distracted. And honestly, it's a pretty good idea. So yeah, he shows up drunk. He's got a flask that he's freely swigging out of, making it very obvious that he's drunk. Like he's trying to be a disgrace. That's the point. Tosses the flask aside after it's empty, and he says, I am here to teach you what not to do. Let's begin with a cloaking spell, shall we? Which unfortunately you will never do because the library, they don't want you to know it. So he uses a cloaking spell and disappears. But it seems like because he can't see his own body, that he isn't really good at judging how far he can walk. And also he's drunk. It's a combination. He says, now forget it, because if you learn it, you'll be in very, very serious trouble. And then like knocks the blackboard back, and you just hear him yell, cock shit, which that feels like the kind of swear I would say in that circumstance as well. So anyway, all this to say that he serves as an excellent distraction so that Everett is summoned away. And as he has his back to Zelda, and she steals the key to the poison room, and it's unclear. I think he's supposed to be just like getting his jacket, but he takes a little while to do it. And I felt suspicious. And I think likely he's going to have been the one that locked her and Kady in the poison room. I am assuming something gave away what was going on. And I don't know if it was that he has some sort of like charm to tell if somebody tries to duplicate one of his keys, or if he like put some sort of tracker in Zelda's cardigan that was sitting there that she puts on. I didn't keep track of that, but it felt like there was a little something hinky. And she does take the key and goes into the poison room after drinking her bugs with Kady. And the bugs, it turns out, are meant to like soak up all of the poison if they absorb it through their skin. And as they absorb it, there is a change in the aftertaste of the bugs. So at first it's chocolate, or apparently not even at first. At first it's something else. Then there's eventually you get to chocolate, and then there's mint, which really means that it's like wearing off and you are like in danger at this point. Zelda gets to Everett's book and speed reads through it. She can literally flip through the book. I really enjoyed the effect of it because there's light shining on the book. And from the way the camera flips around, when she decides to like flip through the pages, the light is only being reflected from the pages, from a light that I guess is shining in through the window or somewhere. But it looks almost like the light is coming up out of the book itself, which is kind of a neat effect, even though that's not what's happening. So she finishes reading and looks at Kady and says, Everett's been lying to all of us. It's just as we suspected. He's hoarding magic. And she says that it is to become a god, and according to this book, he succeeds. And the look on Kady's face when she says that, that's a good moment. Because, yeah, that's not what you want to hear. That's like, I don't feel like I have a good sense of how likely things that are written in the book are to happen. I feel like we're meant to think if it's in the book, that's it. That's what happens. And yet, we've seen instances, I believe, of that not being true. So I don't have a good handle on how changeable things are. I don't feel like I've been keeping track. But nevertheless, it's not what we want to hear. And she and Kady head back to the door. They have his book, which I was surprised by. I thought she was speed reading the book so as to not have to take it with her. And that way nobody would detect that they had read it, and they wouldn't notice that it was, Everett specifically would be unaware that anybody was onto him. But instead, Kady's holding it when they go to the door, and I was a little bit surprised by that. But yeah, when they get to the door, it's locked. Someone locked us in. Zelda is trying so hard to be calm, and Kady says, "I have worse news. I just tasted mint." And Zelda, honestly, in a great moment, just kind of tightens her lips, smiles almost a little bit, and goes, in this, it's so good. It's such a weird little moment, but I really like it, of just when everything goes wrong and there's really nothing to be said because it's bad and you have no options. And so just going, I mean, that's as good as anything. Why not just say, with a kind of a weird smile on your face? That's as effective as any other option. I found that so funny. I don't know why, but I really liked that. So that is the end of their storyline. Let's go back to the binder. The binder is, again, it's still talking in this weird third person way, does not seem to realize that he's talking this way. He doesn't understand it when Margot points it out. And he says that he has answers for them, but first they have to learn how he came to be. And he starts to say to be, and then he collapses on the floor and says that he is missing pages. And when they come back to him, he is doing a little bit of the story of the three brothers thing with puppet show, basically, which I found engaging. Everybody else was kind of like, "Oh, really? That's what we're doing?" And I was like, "No. I want to know all about this." So, and I forgot, when they are all gathered in the living room watching him, Margot sees somebody walk by upstairs, and she goes up there, and there's this bedroom all with rose petals and candles, and she walks in, the door slams shut behind her, and she gets whacked on the head, tied up, and put in the closet. And it turns out that this is Hyman, the ghost from the physical kids' cottage, who has followed them because he's been very interested in the plot line, but he felt it was a mess and he wanted to begin to get involved. So apparently what he wants is for Penny 23 and Julia to hook up. And he thinks, I guess, that getting Margot out of the way is the way to do that. I didn't really understand his motivation here. He, I guess, thinks that it's just too much of a crowd, and that if the two of them had some time alone, they would be able to, take their relationship to the next level. But it's there's more people in the house when he does this to Margot than just the three of them. Aren't there? I thought that there, I'm trying to think in that scene. I thought it was, now I'm trying to look back. I'm realizing that I was about to say that Alice and Quentin were still with them. But now that I look, I guess not. It is just the three of them. I guess. Okay. What a weird guy, Hyman, you are. Also, he says, "Isn't this just berries?" Which I am guessing has to be some kind of old slang, but I have never heard that before. Honestly, I kind of like it. Isn't this just berries? Weird. And he is extremely excited to be talking to Penny 23 because he is, he feels that Penny 23, he calls Penny 40 P40, which is really pretty good. I'm not even mad at him for that. Like, that's a pretty good, like, rapper name. I would be fine with it, you know? It's no weirder than just Fitty, you know? It's fine. But yeah, when he died / became my astral best friend, I seriously doubt that. Whoa, you sound just like P40 right now. Whoa, that's just... But yeah, he says, you guys are my favorite characters, but you disappeared, so I left Breakbills to find out what happened. The plot was a mess. The actor who plays Hyman is delightful. This character could be truly awful. I mean, what makes him funny isn't even the dialogue, it's the delivery of the dialogue. This dialogue in the wrong hands with the wrong actor, it could make you want to bash somebody in the head if it's not done well. And he really does well with it. I found him very funny. And I love too that Margot can see him because of her fairy eye, which I always forget is a thing, but it's enjoyable to me that it comes up here and there. I like that this is something that the show is remembering to use, because that's something that can happen, especially in a show like this that's an ensemble cast that has so many different like plates in the air. And if they give somebody like a cool ability or a tool of some kind, a lot of times they will sort of forget it until the perfect thing just happens to come up. But I like that it's come up a few times, and it's been small, sort of like not super necessary. Like, you know, she sees the woman with the red sand, and that it's like super helpful to her to be able to see them. But likely when they gathered all the sand up for her and put it into the bag, she would have figured out that the spirits are like helpful and not necessarily here to just harm. The fairy eye might not have been completely necessary for that. And in this case as well, Penny is able to, you know, astral project so that he can talk to Hyman. But Margot seeing Hyman is the one that's able to explain what is happening here. I mean, she can't talk to him, but Penny might have been able to figure it out without her. So I like to think this is all just little reminders of what Margot's eye can do in preparation for maybe a bigger deal thing that will happen later. And I might be wrong about that, but we'll see. And Penny says to Hyman, because I didn't pick up on the fact, the thing is here that Hyman stole some pages out of the binder's book. And Penny tells him, I will sick Margot on you if you don't fucking hand them over. And Hyman says, you just got to understand, I see what you and Julia keep doing. And I worry about the both of you. And Penny says, what are we doing? And he says, you both sacrifice your own joy to help others. Julia gave up all that power, and other Penny died because of it. When I think about it, it's a sad twist. You can't blame me for wanting the two of you to be happy, because you will never do it for yourself. And it's interesting that he delivers these lines that could feel really condescending and patronizing, but it doesn't really feel that way. It does sort of seem like, I just really like you guys, and y'all are fucking it up just over and over again. Relatable. I get it, you know? So he gives the pages back, and then we get our little Three Brothers puppet show, which I found to be pretty cool. I think Penny makes fun of it because it's like a kind of a goofy way of doing this. But I thought it was kind of neat. The binder's story began in a place known simply as a library. And he tells them that he was studying the limits of power and the magic that the gods have. And he says, when a being of great power, such as a god, is killed, their energy is lost. But he believed it could be preserved by binding it to an object, and that object, in turn, could be bound to a magician of sufficient training and preparation of effectively turning that magician into a god. So this is interesting. I feel like this could be a pretty dope going up against Everett eventually kind of moment. And Margot is like, yeah, we can't kill a god because that they turn magic off when that happens. And the binder's like, the binder politely reminded Margot that not every story is about her. So the binder is a catty bitch. So fun. He continued. It was a problem that perplexed the binder and his fellow librarians, but as it turned out, the old gods themselves provided a solution. And then he points to a sort of like yin-yang, twins in utero setup here, that he points to and says, two siblings, mistakes, born with the power of many gods. They were created with one unique quality that made them essential to this experiment. They could not die. Which I have a lot of questions about that. One, why are they a mistake? Two, how did you figure out that they could not die? Three, the power of many gods? Why? How? How did this happen? Nobody asks this. I'm dying here. And Julia says, so no matter what you did to them, it would not trigger the old gods to take away magic. So they move forward with this experiment. One of the monsters was captured. The older, more dominant one, the female. The one left behind would be confused and afraid like a child. Without his sister, he'd have trouble even remembering them. So he cuts the sister into 4 parts and binds them, in each part in stone, and each stone was bound in a librarian. So we see the origin of these gods, Bacchus, Iris, Hecate, and Angus. And they all know that the binder is the only one who can spill the beans and that regrets doing what he did. And they decide that they are going to kill him. The new gods he had built were afraid of him. So yeah, they can't, like, they don't kill him. They bind him in this book. It's a curse. And that way they can all go along with their godlike powers. And they can control him because he's like, in this book, hidden away from everyone else, and nobody knows the truth about like where they're getting their power from. And he says a young librarian read the book and was convinced to hide the binder in the mirror world, where he hoped that no one would find him again, until word reached the binder of Julia Wicker and her quest. So, who read it? And is that Eckert? Is that his name? I just realized I said it, but I'm like not positive. Did he read it and figure this out? And is he after the same? Like, I wouldn't think that he would be hoarding magic then, because he would just be able to go after one of these things. So I wonder who it was that read it and hid it in the mirror world. And he tells Julia that you can go back to being a goddess, or you could go back to being a human being. And either way, it's going to be painful. And, I liked that he said that. He doesn't say, there's no sort of like, here are all the pros and cons. We know the pros and cons. Basically, he's like, there's no right decision here. Either one is going to be very difficult. And he tells her that he knows that she needs time, but that either way, he needs a favor in return. He needed her to burn his book. And he did not want to be used again, like it was before. And it's honestly really touching. I felt really bad for him. And the way he asks, like, he's not looking at her, like he's got his head high and he is like standing straight, but his eyes are on the floor. Like, he is ashamed of what happened to him. And it just got to me, man. It just made me feel bad. I hurt for this guy. So we don't see, I'm assuming that they have to keep the binder around until she makes the decision of which one she's going to take, the human or the goddess, right? But because we don't see her burn it, but we don't see him again this episode. So I don't know if that is the correct assumption or not, but we have one last scene between her and Penny where he starts making out with her, and they have this very touching, like, oh, maybe we're going to hook up after all kind of moment in front of the fire, when all of a sudden fucking the Elliot monster shows up. And I was so mad, you guys. It is so very clear what he is about to do. And I know, I do. There is nothing Julia could have done to defend herself. But I just wanted either one of them to back away and make him chase even a little bit. But she does not do that. Elliot shows up. He's got blood on him. He says, she's dying. My sister, I found her a body, but it's not strong enough. I need one that is more durable, like yours. And he grabs Julia and just disappears. And Penny is left standing there like, what the fuck do I do now? I feel very bad that Julia keeps just getting taken advantage of by gods. She just can't get away from these motherfuckers. It is not fair. So lastly, we're going to talk about fucking Fillory and what's going on there with this Naiad? Is that what she is? Josh has this weird TV thing happen. I don't know what... Guys, help me out here. I feel like I missed something. He runs into the room and tells them the weirdest thing just happened. I was eating a biscuit, not off the floor. I enjoy that. And I had a kind of vision. And it's a TV show called Eating Out with Josh Hoberman. I'm really surprised that's not the name of a TV show already, because, like, come on. Not necessarily with Josh Hoberman, but nevertheless. So he does that. Any baker worth their gluten knows a biscuit is only as good as its flour. And he's got like a fucking sparkly blazer on Trust me, with lavender spiked honey, you'd eat this right off the floor. And he takes a bite, and then all of a sudden there's like another gust of wind, and the fucking crew disappears, everything. And when we come back to the present after he's just explained this, Tick says that the winds of fate, I think, yeah, the winds of fate have come unseasonably early this year. And they believe that this is indicative of, in combination with other things, Lorien plants silencing the animals, too many questing creatures, that there is something wrong with Fillory right now. So Tick tells him about a naiad that committed a moderate act of violence against some farmers. We find out that she deboned one of them, which I feel like is much more than moderate, but who am I to say? And apparently she had some things to say about Fillory's failing ecosystem. And Tick says, but she was covering guts, and that's really hard to get past. So they decide to go and talk to her. And this bitch is creepy AF. She is very, like, she looks like something that's been left in water but shouldn't have been. You'd really think that a naiad would look a little bit more like it didn't have a bad reaction to water. But yeah, she's just got this, like, she's got those reflective cat eyes that are real creepy. She's wearing what looks like a wet silk dress, which is fine. I think Josh says that he's getting Grudge vibes. I never saw the Grudge, but then he mentions the ring also, which I did see. Listen, if anybody tries to tell me they did not find the ring scary, I do not believe you. Okay? I don't believe you. The fucking ring is so scary, y'all. Just don't brag to me about it. Don't do it. It's just, I don't buy it. The more you protest, the more scary I think you actually found it. Don't you lie to me. That shit is unnerving, and you know it. And that's why I never saw the damn Grudge, because the Grudge looked like the ring, but worse. So thank you. I will pass. So she says that she killed the farmers as a warning. They were stealing my water, an assault on my very soul. What she says is that basically the well she protects is like her, is like if for one of us, our blood lived outside of our skin, and people thoughtlessly drank it, bathed in it, and peed in it. And Tick says that he wants to ask some questions about the ecosystem. And she's like, I'm not talking. The waters are moving. I've told you already. And she says it is the fault of the 13th. And they are asking who the 13th is. And she says he tried to capture us and dam us in, but water should flow free. What he built, there is no excuse for it. And Josh says, what did he build? And she says, we're done here. Tick has had it. That is what he has. It. That's it. So he decides that he is going to go and get some water from her well and drink it. Which, honestly, it's fucked up, guys. Am I wrong? This is like weird reverse waterboarding or something. I don't know. They look for clues about the 13th. They can't find anything, like he's been like magically erased from the records. She says that she won't speak his name, and then Tick shows up and says, "Oh, yes, you will. I went all the way to your well, and if you don't tell us what we need to know, I'm going to drink it, and then I'm going to pee it, and then Josh is going to drink it." And Josh is like, "Wait, what?" And Josh points out that this is sort of like torture, and I thought we were against that. And Tick is not interested. Honestly, I don't know what to think here. I can't decide if this makes me like Tick more or less. But yeah, she says, "Please, please, you can't." And he starts drinking, and she's just screaming in pain. And as she's screaming, Fen remembers there's a nursery rhyme from when she was a kid. Thirsty Roderick, 13th of his line, always liked to have a good time. And when she says this, Tick turns around and immediately knows what the fuck she's talking about. Meanwhile, the poor Naiad is just like crumpled against the wall, like falling to a seated position because she is recovering from having been tortured. And she says, we used to sing it while playing Bear Skip. It's a children's game, sort of like Philorian hopscotch, involving bears, ideally skipping them. And what follows is an ongoing joke about the weirdness of children's games and how impenetrable they are to you when you are an adult out of context. Which it really is remarkable when you look at some of the games you played as a kid, that some of them don't even like count as games exactly. You're just kind of like, what's that? And then there's, I think Rashawn shared a video the other day of some people doing clapping games. Do you guys remember clapping games? I don't know. Like in my neighborhood, they were a big thing. And I was good as fuck at clapping games. I like really loved them. I found them very satisfying to get right. I loved them. And yeah, if I like tried to show them to Owen one time, tried to like demonstrate how you did them. And he was like, what is this even? So yeah, he hides his drinks from his many daughters, builds a cistern to hoard the waters underneath the castle fair. If you jump, you'll skip the bear. I love Josh being like, your nursery rhyme used the word cistern. Really? So they figure out that probably the waters are like underneath the castle itself. And Josh says, maybe it's not just waters, though. Maybe she's talking about magic, a huge reservoir of magic hidden underneath the castle. That could be what's causing all the stuff we're seeing. And Fen thinks that she knows how they can get to it. And what follows is them doing the weird hopscotch game. It's honestly pretty fun. I really love that there's a part where like Josh just has to take some berries off of a bush and like throw them onto a certain spot. Like all of it is just, and then at the end he has to say honey or die. And that is what makes the little doorway open. I love too that he can't remember what to say. And both Fen and Tick are so annoyed with him. I mean, we don't see Fen get annoyed that easy. She's like very patient. But when he can't remember the bear skip words, the both of them, like, it's real weird, you two. I don't blame him. But it is also very funny. So he says, honey or die. The thing slides open. There's a staircase going up and one going down. And it ends with, where does it lead? Only one way to find out. And then they run into the little opening and disappear. And that's it. I think I've covered everyone. So yeah, this was more of like a setup episode as we move into the next movement of plot. And I'm really, the thing that I'm most curious about right now is honestly what's going to happen with the poison room, which is kind of funny because Zelda's the one that I like was the most not into in terms of like her character. But teaming her up with Kady, I kind of enjoy. And I also really want the library taken down a notch. And if this is the way that can happen, I'm here for it. I would like to see it. I'm just worried what lasting effects this is going to have. They really should keep some supplies of these bugs in the poison room. Anyway, all right, I am going to wrap it up, but thank you very much to Nicole for commissioning this episode. Thank you so much to you guys who were in the chat, Jesse, Nicole, and Michael. Michael's here. And yeah, I hope you have been enjoying it, and I'll be seeing you again soon with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.